Yo, what's going on everybody? List of Legends here. It's been a hot minute since we talked about Total Drama, and the reason for this is because there really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about in regards to the new seasons, except maybe the tweet by Terry McGurran stating that there's still no air date. However, the writing team is finishing up the very last episode. So while this is good news, we do need to keep in mind it's ultimately the network's decision on when the show will debut and not the show creators. Overall, my mindset is pretty much when the show comes back, it comes back. So in the meantime, of course, we can always talk about the old stuff and maybe more things I'd like to see in the revival, which that's all fine and dandy, but definitely expect videos about other topics since obviously I just don't want to be known as a Total Drama guy. I love this series to the moon and back, but there are other things I'm passionate about as well. Anyways, for this video, I'm going to be talking about a hypothetical Total Drama movie, if it could work, how it could work, and so on and so forth. But before we dive into this topic, be sure to click that like and subscribe button so I know you like my content. Without further interruptions, let's begin. So Total Drama is a series in which you have contestants going through some intense challenges, doing pretty much whatever it takes to bring home the $1 million grand prize. The show's structure is pretty simple. Host Chris McClain splits the contestants into typically two teams, with almost every challenge resulting in losers having to vote someone off. Now, when converting this to a movie, you don't really have a whole lot of time to really capture each challenge in detail. Pretty much the entire series is based off progression, which is pretty much near impossible to show in a movie's runtime. So if they were to try and make a Total Drama movie, my guess would probably be they'd have to do something similar to the final episode of Total Drama Island, where essentially it's just one big challenge to score the $1 million. As for the cast, I think it'd be pretty much a given to include main players like Owen, Heather, Alejandro, Courtney, Gwen, Duncan, Lightning, Cameron, Brick, Sean, Jasmine, etc. It would also give majority of the characters that participated in All-Stars the redemption that is without a doubt needed after the insane amount of character derailment that transpired in the first half of Season 5. Now, Generation 3 is a little tougher simply due to most of the cast being insanely dislikable. However, I have absolutely no issue with Sean, Jasmine, Sammy, Sky, and maybe Max returning. I don't know if I could see Scarlett coming back after she threatened to literally nuke the entire island with everyone else but Chris and Chef still on it. Some undoubtedly will bring up how Sierra was able to return after blowing up the plane in Season 3. However, with her case, it was just an unfortunate accident. While with Scarlett's case, I don't know man, something tells me it was pretty intentional. Anyways, as for the Redonkulous race, I think it'd be interesting to see some faces return, especially Jock and Jose, but since it's a spin-off series with an entirely new host and all, I'm not too sure to be honest. But with my idea for the movie, throwing some members of the cast into this movie might not seem like a bad idea. The challenge itself, I think it'd be really cool to see one big scavenger hunt, like across all locations of the Total Drama verse. Okay, maybe not every single location because there was like a lot of locations in World Tour, so maybe just a few of the important ones, so that way you include the island, the film lot, some World Tour locations like Hawaii, New York, Drumheller, and lastly, Pockettail Island, where they could actually do some cool stuff with it this time around. I feel like Pockettail Island was a wasted location. The characters didn't find out about it being artificial until literally towards the end of the season, so with the knowledge they now possess, it will be really interesting to see more of how they would counteract Chris's challenges, as well as other methods Chris could implement. I mean, it's a literal remote control island, so there are practically no limits to what he could do. Somehow, some way, I'd also love to see Boney Island thrown in there somewhere, maybe even as the final location. They could set up like an underneath passage to like an underground temple, which I think would give a more serious tone to the final battle. Of course, when you're dealing with Chris and Chef, you know things are going to get really intense. Now, they could do some rehashes of previous challenges, like with Island, where things were a lot more tame when compared to the later seasons of Total Drama. So you could start easy, but gradually get more and more difficult as the locations progress. Ultimately, you'd have a mix of characters from all generations of the cast competing in one big scavenger hunt, with clue after clue across all locations of the Total Drama universe. Since a scavenger hunt is like a race to get all the items needed, it would give some context for adding characters of the Redonkulous race, and I know I can't be the only one who wants to see actual genuine interactions between all generations of Total Drama. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about how All-Stars handled its first crossover, plain and simple. As for the Final Four, I think it would be really cool to have one member from each generation going head to head to head to head. Maybe you have Courtney versus Brick versus Jasmine Jasmine versus Ennui. Obviously, they'd have to write it in a way where having a person from each generation doesn't feel too forced. Of course, they could possibly restructure the scavenger hunt where you have each generation going against one another. Of course, by that point, they'd really have to bring everyone back, but hey, since it's a movie, why not, right? The winning generation can maybe each get $1 million, then Chris could offer the chance for one of the characters to win $1 billion or something like that. Raise the stakes even higher, if you will. All in all, if they did go the route of all generations going against one another, that would be just insane. The most I'd definitely be excited for would be the interactions between the characters. Maybe you have Jock sabotaging a clue, then you have Heather backstabbing Jose's trust with Jock, all while Alejandro was sweet talking Jose. How about Cameron and B teaming up against Noah and Izzy in an epic brain battle, or even Owen and Sugar facing off in an eating contest? There's just so many combinations they could do, especially if they brought majority of everyone back for one big movie. Overall, they could definitely try and fix the damage caused in All Stars, as well as give other characters the spotlight, the time to shine, the time they didn't get in the respected seasons, specifically Tyler, Dawn, Harold, Rick, B, Trent, Izzy, and I could just go on and on with this list. Point blank, a movie of this caliber would not only be insanely epic, but really give more to the Total Drama franchise. The only big problem with having everyone come back and having each generation compete against one another is Generation 1 by far has the most contestants, so it would definitely be an unfair advantage. So maybe not have every single character come back, but 13 from each generation competing, since that's the amount of characters Gen 2 has. Even with this limitation, this would still make for a really great movie. Overall, these are just my quick current thoughts on how a Total Drama movie could work. I could easily come back and expand more upon this topic in a later video. At the end of the day, these are just my ideas on how I'd handle a Total Drama movie. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click that like and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, that's the end of our list. Let me know what list you'd like to see next. And with all that said, I look forward to seeing you with our next list.